Good afternoon. I'm Sister Madeleine Gregg, and I'm an FCJ sister who lives at the FCJ Center. And for those of you who don't know, FCJ stands for Faithful Companions of Jesus. And we're here in our beautiful big chapel. We actually have a small chapel for the convent, and then we have two other oratories or prayer rooms as part of the retreat center, but this is the main chapel. When we have Mass, this is almost always where the Masses are, and lots of prayer groups come and use this chapel for different purposes. The painting that you see behind me is not a painting, it's a tapestry woven for us by a tapestry maker in Vancouver. A whole team of women worked on it for a long time. But you know, today is the International Day of the Woman, celebrating womanhood, celebrating women's empowerment. And when you think of FCJ sisters, you should think of women's empowerment. The first sisters came to Calgary in 1885, but in 1883, they crossed the prairies in covered wagons and went to St. Albert, where the Northwest Rebellion was. And so that rebellion had a big part in FCJ history because Louis Riel took the FCJ sisters under his wing. And then Bishop Grandin, who'd invited the FCJ sisters to come out west, decided they better go to Calgary. It would be safer in Calgary. So to Calgary they came. And Sacred Heart Convent was built starting in 1893. It's the oldest continuously inhabited building in Calgary. Well, enough history. That's not really what I wanted to talk to you about today, but I'm so enthusiastic about the International Day for Women, I couldn't resist. What I want to talk to you about is, who do you talk to about God? Who in your life do you have that you can share what's going on with your prayer, or when you're struggling with something that Scripture says and you can't even figure out what it means, let alone whether you believe it, or some teachings of the church that trouble you and you don't quite understand how it all fits together? Who do you talk to about God? Who helps you with your prayer life? Who suggests things for you to pray about? Who listens to you intently and hears your story and hears how God is interacting in your life and then reflects it back to you so that you can grow in awareness and grow in your relationship with God? Who is that person in your life? If you're like most Catholics or most Christians, the answer is nobody. And yet that is the very purpose of a practice called spiritual direction, something that's been part of the Roman Catholic Church's tradition from the very beginning, and something which Protestant churches have been appropriating more and more in the last 50 years. Till now, there are lots and lots of Protestant spiritual directors and lots of Catholic spiritual directors, and some of them are religious sisters, and some of them are priests, but most of them are lay people. Ordinary men and women who have a good relationship with God, who have a spiritual director of their own, and who have had some training. Here at the FCJ Center, we run a spiritual direction training program, which starts every other year in odd-numbered years. By the way, we're in 2017. It's an odd-numbered year. So we will be starting a new group of spiritual directors in training this next September. Now is the time to phone the FCJ Center and inquire about this program. But before you can become a spiritual director, you have to be a person who is experiencing spiritual direction, who's been growing with spiritual direction in your own life. So, I'm back to the question, who do you talk to about God? Here at the center, we have 26 spiritual directors on staff. There's an intake form. You call the center, you ask for the intake form to be emailed to you, you fill it out and send it back. And then the director of the FCJ Center, Denise Deneve, looks at what you've said and looks at all the spiritual directors who are available for taking new directees, and she matches you up with someone she thinks is going to work out real well for you. We have men directors and women directors. We have religious sisters. We have ordinary lay women. We have ordained men from Protestant congregations. I don't think we actually have any priests, but I'm not too sure. I'm not in charge of this place. I'm just telling you about spiritual direction. But I'd like to encourage you to really think about your own prayer life. Would you benefit from a spiritual companion? As a spiritual director, I can tell you that it is just beautiful to listen to people talk about their attempts to pray, their attempts to grow in virtue, their attempts to make sense of the patterns of their lives. It's a beautiful ministry, the ministry of spiritual direction. And it is one of the major things that we do here at the FCJ Center. So, think about it, and then give us a call.